When you guys were cheering more for her, I was a little bit upset. So next time, please.
When Aryna Sabalenka stood on the biggest stage in Madrid, fresh off a dominant 6-1, 6-4 victory, the world expected celebration, but instead, she delivered something far more unexpected, even unsettling. When you guys were cheering more for her, I was a bit upset. Next time, please go for me. These weren't the words of a defeated player or someone under pressure. This was the world number one, a three-time title winner in 2026, sitting on a staggering 25-1 record, asserting control not just over her opponent, but over the crowd itself. It was bold, it was raw, and it instantly sparked conversation. But what truly made that moment electric was the shadow looming behind it, because just days earlier, in the very same city, a completely different energy had taken over, led by rising star Alex Ila. At the glamorous Laureus World Sports Awards 2026, Sabalenka, despite winning Sportswoman of the Year, admitted she wanted to disappear from the spotlight, while Ila did the exact opposite. Draped in a stunning traditional Filipiniana gown designed by her uncle, she embraced the moment, proudly representing her culture and stepping into global attention with confidence and grace. That contrast, one star retreating, the other rising, set the tone for everything that followed. Just 2 days later, Ila stormed onto the Aranxa Sanchez Stadium and dismantled Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova in commanding fashion, 6-3, 6-3, igniting a wave of support from Filipino fans and even officials from the Philippine Embassy. And then came the viral moment. Mid-interview, she switched effortlessly into fluent Spanish, declaring, "I love Madrid," sending the crowd into a frenzy and marking her arrival on the global stage. The energy was undeniable, the momentum unstoppable, until it wasn't. In a move that raised eyebrows across the tennis world, Madrid Open organizers shifted her next match against Elise Mertens to a smaller, outer court, dramatically limiting the very crowd that had just elevated her into the spotlight. The buzz faded, the atmosphere shrank, and the result followed. Ila fell 2-6, 1-6. Frustration boiled over as she challenged the umpire during a tense second set, demanding respect and fairness in a moment that captured both her fire and her fight. In just a few days, Madrid had witnessed two completely different forces, one demanding the spotlight, the other earning it. And the collision between them turned this tournament into something far bigger than just tennis, even in defeat, on a court far too small for the moment. Alex Ila refused to fade quietly. She didn't shrink, didn't soften, didn't let the stage define her presence. And here's the image that defines this entire story. While her fans were being squeezed into court 5, unable to surround her, unable to recreate the electric atmosphere they had just days earlier, Aryna Sabalenka was playing at the same time on the massive Manolo Santana Stadium. A packed house, full capacity, every seat filled, and still found the crowd's support lacking. That's not coincidence, that's contrast. Ila came into Madrid ranked number 44 in the world, fresh off a career-high number 29, the highest ever reached by a Filipino woman in WTA history. But her movement wasn't built on rankings. It was built on belief. Her fans didn't travel across continents for numbers. They came for something deeper, something emotional, the feeling that history was being rewritten in real time. Her uncle, Ret Ila, who designed her iconic Filipiniana dress, said it best. He's proud to be known as Alex Ila's Tito. That's the level of cultural impact we're talking about. An entire community rallying behind a 21-year-old left-hander, turning every court into home ground. And when tournament organizers pushed her to an outer court, they didn't silence that energy, they displaced it. It spilled into the entire complex, into the atmosphere, into the very crowd that Sabalenka would later call out on the main stadium microphone. And if you look closer, a pattern starts to emerge. This wasn't the first time Sabalenka found herself clashing with the environment around her. Earlier in the season, after withdrawing from the Dubai Tennis Championships with a hip injury, she publicly fired back at tournament director Sulatalik over comments suggesting penalties for late withdrawals, calling his remarks ridiculous and even questioning whether she'd return to the event. Now fast forward, and the narrative has flipped. The same player once threatening to boycott is now facing a subtle resistance from the crowd itself. That symmetry isn't random, it's revealing. It points to a growing tension between control and connection, between expectation and reality. And then came the spectacle at the Santiago Bernabéu Stadium, a one-of-a-kind exhibition where Rafael Nadal, Jannik Sinner, and Iga Swiatek turned tennis into a global celebration, drawing millions of eyes and creating a viral moment for the sport. Sabalenka chose to sit it out, later explaining she wanted to focus on tennis. And maybe that decision made sense competitively, but visually, symbolically, it told a different story. While others expanded the game's reach, she stepped away from the spotlight. The contrast couldn't be clearer. One side embracing the moment, the other controlling it. And in Madrid, that difference didn't just stay behind the scenes. It played out in front of the entire world. The reaction to Aryna Sabalenka's Madrid comments didn't just explode. It confirmed what fans had been feeling all season. Across social media, the response was sharp, emotional, and brutally honest. Fans will support whoever they want. Let people cheer for the underdog. And you're not the center of the WTA. This wasn't random outrage. It was a build-up, a pattern finally being called out in real time. Because while critics were typing, supporters of Alex Ila were doing something far louder. They were showing up. Even on Court 5, even when the spotlight was stripped away, they stayed. That's not hype. That's movement. And the tennis world is starting to take it seriously. When Greg Rosetsky, a former world number 4 and one of the sport's most respected analytical voices, spoke after Ila's loss to Elise Mertens, he didn't sugarcoat anything. He pointed to one word: resilience. And in tennis, that word carries weight. It's what separates short-term flashes from long-term greatness. He wasn't comforting fans. He was identifying a trajectory, the kind that survives bad draws, questionable scheduling, and the pressure of carrying an entire nation's hopes on your back. Because let's be clear, the decision at Madrid wasn't just scheduling, it was a misread of reality. Ila's rise isn't just about rankings, it's about reach. The presence of the Philippine embassy, the packed stands at Aranxa Sanchez Stadium, and the global Filipino diaspora rallying behind her. This is one of the most energized fan bases the WTA has seen in years. And yet, institutions are still treating it like a side story. That gap, it's closing fast. After Madrid, Ila heads into the Catalonia Open as a 6th seed, then into the Italian Open, and then onto the global stage at French Open. And every tournament now faces the same unavoidable question. What do you do with a player whose fan base is bigger than her seed? Because this isn't tourism, this is loyalty, this is identity. This is a wave that doesn't shrink based on court assignment. Meanwhile, Sabalenka's path only intensifies the spotlight. A looming clash with Naomi Osaka brings another global fan force into the equation. Massive Japanese support, massive international pull. And if the Madrid crowd leans again toward the energy, toward the story, toward the connection instead of the ranking, then the answer becomes unavoidable. Maybe the crowd isn't disloyal. Maybe the question was never about them at all. The loss to Elise Mertens wasn't complicated. It was decisive. 2-6, 1-6, clear from start to finish. Played out on the smallest stage Madrid had to offer. But here's what made it unforgettable. Alex Ila didn't disappear inside that defeat. She stayed present. She stayed visible. She stayed loud in identity. Even as the match slipped away, she stood at the umpire's chair and demanded, "First of all, please let me speak." Not because the moment called for drama, but because it called for recognition. That wasn't just competitiveness. That was presence. That was a player refusing to be minimized, even when everything around her tried to shrink the stage. Days earlier, she honored her roots quietly in a Filipiniana gown at the Laureus World Sports Awards 2026. But on Court 5, that same identity wasn't quiet anymore. It was unapologetic. Undeniable, impossible to ignore. From a packed Aranxa Sanchez Stadium to embassy representatives in the crowd, from a viral Spanish-speaking moment to fans who followed her energy across every corner of the complex, this wasn't just support, it was movement. It spread so powerfully that it reached the main arena, where Aryna Sabalenka, despite winning, felt compelled to call it out. And that's the real story Madrid couldn't contain. Ila lost the match, but the conversation stayed with her. Sabalenka won her match, but the spotlight shifted to her frustration. That inversion says everything. Real crowd power, the kind that crosses borders, mobilizes communities, and fills stadiums without permission, isn't something a tournament assigns. It's something people build. And the Filipino fan base didn't wait for rankings to validate their belief. They showed up early. They showed up loud. They showed up together. Now, the tour moves forward to the Italian Open and then to the global stage of the French Open. And the question gets bigger. What happens when she steps onto a court that can finally hold the weight of her following? Because if Madrid was a preview, the next chapter might be something the sport isn't fully ready for. So now it's your turn. What do you think happens next? Drop your prediction below. And if you want to witness this story as it unfolds, every moment, every shift, every breakthrough, make sure you're here for it.